Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. You got Brian and Randy coming at you on this episode, and I'm going to do this episode without getting too worked up here at the beginning. But no, it's all good. No, this Randy and I were talking. This kind of led to Randy and I are having a conversation. It was based off another conversation. We're like, hey, this could be a good episode. So let's jump on here and record one real quick. But so I had a conversation earlier this week with a gentleman, and let's just call it a healthy conflict or healthy conversation, a healthy argument, however you want to put it. But really the conversation stemmed from of how wholesalers is not a legit business and how nobody should ever be wholesaling and everything like that. And there's some validity to that a little bit. And I will say, like, hey, wholesaling is not real estate investing. It's a
Right.
gateway to real estate investing, because when you're wholesaling, you're not really investing in anything.
Right.
You're just, getting things under contract and you're making money. That's a job. And that's what, kind of wholesaling is. But can it lead to real estate investing? Can it be doing, can it kind of, elaborate on those things? Definitely 100%. So where he's coming from is I completely understand of like, hey, yes, it's something. Maybe you've had some bad experiences wholesaler, and I apologize for that. But if you are in real estate investing in any way, what I want to kind of talk about in this episode with Randy is how you should be wholesaling in some way. Maybe you're not doing it like simple wholesaling does, but you're doing it in some way. If you are a fix and flip guy, if you are a note seller, if you are a buy and hold investor, like, you should be legitimately thinking about wholesaling or how to make some money wholesaling in some way. Might not be sending out all your direct mail and having a whole, a team that does it or anything like that, but there's some legitimacy behind it by basically understanding like, hey, I can take something, I can buy something, I can get something under contract and sell it for something a little bit higher, make a little bit of money on that. That should be a legit thing, because
Mm-hmm.
I talk to buy and hold investors each and every day, each and every week of, man, if they are doing any type of marketing or doing any type of lead generation or just looking at a bunch of properties, analyze a bunch of properties, not all of those are going to fit their going to fit their buy box, but do you have an opportunity to pick up one and then sell to somebody else or push it off to somebody else? So I think it's a great opportunity. There's a lot of education that can come from some of this stuff too. Maybe you're just doing like, you're like basically getting a property ready for the burst strategy. You're getting a property ready, like you're buying it, and it's more of a kind of a turnkey model where you're getting it under contract and you're getting that tenant ready, and you're doing even fixing it up and then being able to sell that and be able to turn that over to somebody else. That's still a form of wholesaling, and that's some things you should be considering and stuff. So before I just keep going and just start, keep rambling on here and stuff like that. So when you hear that of just like people like, hey, nobody, like, just wholesaling is not like, is something that nobody should be doing, or like it's just not, legit business practice or anything like that. Like, what's your first reaction to something like that?
They're just not informed on what wholesaling actually is. So there's more, I guess, controversial things about wholesaling floating around than there is about like people talking about a legitimate business. And that's just because of some bad apples that have gotten in the business, and people always want to kind of highlight the negatives, right? So I think that's just the issue, is that whenever I hear someone say that, they're just not informed and they're not educated enough on maybe they've either never been part of a wholesale transaction whatsoever, if they were buying, if they were representing somebody, if they were selling something. So they've probably never experienced anything like it, or they just have heard from someone that it's like illegal, which isn't the case for most areas of our country. So that's what I initially think of.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it's around. I mean, that's what, if you go to Target, like they're wholesaling. That's what they're doing. They're buying. Yeah.
Everything that
So
has been sold
it's
in stores were
yeah.
wholesaled.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's legitimacy behind it. It's funny that, we had our team meetings this morning, and Brett Snodgrass, the owner of Simple Wholesaling, he came down today and was like kind of sharing a little bit of the history of Simple Wholesaling. It's funny to hear his story of just how he got started, and like, really, he's been a wholesaler his entire life. He was the kid, like in sixth grade, would go buy a pack of gum from the store and then sell it for, buy a pack of gum for $1 and then sell it for, 25 cents a piece on the recess on the playground. Then he did it with DVDs, and then he did it with, cars, and then he graduated into, houses. And it's one of those things of can it be done correctly? Yes. And can it be done incorrectly? 100%. I've had some bad experiences with wholesaling and stuff like that. You know what? I've been a part of a bad wholesale deal myself, and had to like, hey, I apologize, this isn't how it went, or something
Yeah.
happened in between, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it right. And that's that's kind of where you want to be working with some people like that. That's who I want to work with, the people that are going to make sure we're doing things right and stuff. So, um, so when it comes into real estate and kind of getting into this of, I'm somebody that firmly believes no matter what your journey is in real estate investing, I think that you have an opportunity to wholesale in some way. So if you are a fix and flipper, if you are a buy and hold investor, if you're an agent that's just working with investors, if you're an agent in general,
in general? Yeah.
there's ways to wholesale without actually even wholesaling yourself. So we work with a ton of partnerships, kind of, a ton of people that whether it's called a partnership or a joint venture, or just somebody that's like sending us leads and then we're cutting them a check at the end or whatever it may be. There's ways that you can work with people in real estate, that basically you don't even have to do the wholesale deal, just be a part of the wholesale deal by working what you have, by looking at the opportunity and being able to take advantage of it and be able to really kind of cash in on what you don't need. And that's what it comes from
Yep.
hey, I don't, we're marketing for properties and things like that. There's some our buyers need, and there's some that, are some properties that our buyers don't need and things like that. Okay. So what are you going to do with those, the other ones and stuff? So, that's really what it comes into of taking advantage of that and stuff. So Randy, let's dig into a little bit of, sorry, do you have anything else to add to that before we kind of dig into like, hey, if you're a flip investor, what does this mean to you, or digging into like different strategies and stuff? Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think we'll kind of dive into those, but I think one that is probably a lot of people don't realize is like a lot of agents that are kind of doing their own lead gen, for their own business, right? For like listings and things like that. They probably come across a lot of wholesale opportunities that they never think of. So
Yeah.
I personally went through that when I got started in real estate, and like looking back now, I'm like, man, I could have wholesaled a lot of properties while I was doing my own lead gen for my listing business. So,
Yeah.
so
So let's start there then, Randy. Let's dig into that and talk about, so like what would that look like for, that agents out there that they're doing their own lead gen. So they have people calling them that want to sell their house in some way. What are some of those opportunities out there that maybe it would be good for a wholesale deal versus like what that agent is used to working on, of like, hey, let's list this and let's do this and stuff like that. So what are some of those opportunities, man?
yeah. So typically those agents are, when they're trying to prospect for listings, they're either, I mean, if they're doing it themselves, if they're like they're cold calling or neighborhood calling, or if they're getting inbound calls, whatever it is, they're looking to find that seller who, like, yes, they want to sell now, because that's motivation, but they also want that property. A listing agent's like, okay, I want to get the most for this property as possible, and they kind of have this image in their head of what the house should look like, and they kind of go down the path of, okay, if you want to go ahead and sell your house, this is the stuff you're going to need to do to it, and they kind of go down that road. That's the traditional route, but that's how as a real estate agent you're like kind of trained to think, because you're trying to maximize how much you can get for that property. So I'll just use myself as an example. So I would just, I sent out a lot of mailers, and did a lot of cold calling in neighborhoods where I wanted to work, and then I also called a lot of for sale by owners around, just anywhere around Indianapolis. And a lot of times I came across some FISBOs that were probably in areas where I didn't want to take a listing, because I'm like, yeah, I just don't know, like that's not a very like owner occupant friendly area. I'm like, it's more of a rental area. So ding, ding, ding. That's kind of like hint number one. So I'm like, okay, I didn't realize it at the time. Like, well, if this is more of a rental area, this seller just wants to sell, then I should have been aware, like, hey, this person is going to be attracted to a cash offer, and they have motivation to sell right now. Why don't I just pitch to them, the idea of, what would they be willing to accept as something that they'd be happy to walk away with. And if it fits the model of, well, I can get this under contract myself and then assign it, mark it up a little bit to, make my assignment fee, and have an investor buy this, then I would. But my issue was I was looking at as a listing opportunity that I did not want to take because of all the variables. I was thinking, I'm gonna try to sell this. There's no one that's really looking, like there's no families looking to buy here. It's more of a rental. It's not the, it's I don't want to say not the best area, but we'll say it's like a C minus D area. And I was just thinking in my mind how the listing wouldn't work, instead of how could I make this property work, not for a listing, but for me to make money in an unconventional route, which would have been the wholesale route. So that's just kind of what it looks like. So um, anyone that's looking for has high motivation to sell right away, if they mention that their property needs work, And if they're open to taking a cash offer at a discount, those are three signs that I always passed up that I wasn't aware of that could have led to wholesale opportunities where I've just said, you know what, if I kind of just wrote them off. I can't remember like how that conversation went, but I
Yeah.
basically wrote them off as I'm not the best man to help you
Yeah.
out. When I'm like, idiot, because I passed up so much opportunity there.
Right. So it's just like every wholesaler always looks back at like, oh man, if I would have held on to that deal, or if I would have bought that to myself and held it on, or something like that. It's the same thing of like where every agent looks at like, oh man, I passed on this lead, or I didn't take this opportunity and stuff where it could have been there. So
Yeah,
I say
and
that
I
too.
see I see agents, listing stuff still today where I'm like, man, that agent they just should be talking to that seller, and just going ahead and just wholesaling that property instead,
Yeah.
because they're just putting on the MLS, and they're raising the price on it higher than what I think it should be, but that's just because that's what they're trained to do is take listings and put them in the MLS. So I think they'd have more success selling those off market in a wholesale deal.
Yeah. So, and what does that look like? That's really like going through and making sure you just have like high quality photos right from the start of making sure like, hey, is the seller okay with maybe just like one walkthrough? They don't have to worry about doing any showings or anything like that. But maybe they're okay with like one walkthrough for a contractor, for the buyer's contractor to walk through or something like
Hmm.
that. So some just quick little things. But really with it, where time is of the essence too, where you can probably move that pretty quickly and stuff. And maybe you don't have
Yeah.
the resources and maybe you don't have like kind of the know-how even to do that and stuff like that. That's just where you work on your connection. Be like, okay, if I get this opportunity under my belt, what am I going to do with it? Who am I going to get to it? Who can do it for me? Who has the
Yeah.
buyers list, that type of thing and stuff. So yeah, definitely a ton of opportunity right there.
Another sign that kind of happened to me was, so there were instances where I did take those listings and I wasn't getting any like agents calling me on it. I was getting buyers calling, but the conversation pretty much was like, hey, like, is this home still for sale? Yes, it is, but we don't want to work with an agent, like, or we don't buy properties on the market. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly why I didn't want to do this, take this listing, but it's exactly why I should have that would have been a perfect wholesale deal because you're obviously talking to investors. They want to buy off market deals. Right there, I just should have talked to the seller, taken that listing off the market, and then just wholesaled it. But I didn't think like that. I was stuck in a box.
I mean, there it is. So, no, that's a legitimate way of like where where that opportunity comes in, and like not every situation is going to play into that, and that's what I always like to say is like not every deal is a wholesale deal, but every deal could be a wholesale deal depending on the
Could be.
situation and stuff.
Yep.
So, this kind of falls into the same thing of like, let's say that you're a house, if you're fix and flipper, you have what comes into it as well. Of you are doing something, maybe you're doing lead generation on your own, or maybe you were just looking at a lot of properties because you deal with a lot of people that are sending you properties, whether they're agents or whether they are off market properties or whether it's a wholesaler, whatever it may be. You got people sending you properties and you're looking at a lot of properties, analyzing stuff like that. Is basically mindset can be of, hey, can I basically provide a better product than what it is right now? So can you buy it, clean it out, or do one thing to it real quick? Or hey, if it's off market, can I buy this and just put it on the market and be able to, get a higher price for it? And I see a lot of people really opening up their mind to what that really looks like and how that really goes and stuff. And I think that's a great way to just be able to flip a property really quick. You already know you're already working with an agent in some way, so you're able to list it. If you're not listing
Mm-hmm.
yourself, you have somebody who can list it for you. So that's an opportunity you can do right there. Maybe that's more of a wholesale versus a wholesale. There's still opportunities right there. Or coming back to too, you're looking at a lot of properties. That's connecting with somebody that does do wholesale. If that's not your thing, and being like, hey, here's this opportunity. Is this up your guys' alley? Versus it's not. I'm not going to buy this for myself to flip it. Would you guys be interested in it, or can we partner on it, basically to
Yeah.
be able to flip this property together? Or hey, you guys have a buyer's list more than mine, like what's this look like, and how's it going? And honestly, with social media right now too, with all the different groups and stuff like that, it's really really easy to be able to do that and be able to network
Yeah.
that way and find the opportunities within that and stuff too.
Yep.
So Randy, when you're looking at like when you're working with those fix and flip buyers and stuff like that, or what you're even seeing by their conversations, and do you feel like more people are like kind of understanding that of like, hey, what can I do? All I'm really doing is what can I make it? How can I make this a better product? For example, in
Yeah.
our scenario, sorry, I'll ask you a question, then I'll cut you off. In our scenario, that's what we're really looking at is like, hey, this seller is in, the seller is in some type of distress, they're in some type of situation. They need to get out of the situation now. We can provide a solution for them. But really what it comes into is what we're sending it to our buyers is we are providing a better product than what we're looking at, whether it's cleaning it up, whether it's, buying it, making sure it has clear title, whether it's going through the sticky issues of clearing out the title. Maybe it's getting rid of a squatter. Maybe it's, doing something little to the house or whatever, but the product that we're getting is different than what we're putting out. We're putting out a better product than what it is. And some of it could even just be information. Like, here's more information than what we had at the start. So here it is, and we can pass on to our buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think right now, I think I'm answering your question the right way, but I think like I am seeing like the flip buyers that we work with. Some of them are starting to do their own lead gen, and they're coming across some of these deals, and um, they're starting to realize that, hey, like I know Randy wholesales, right? So let me see like what the seller wants, because it's not going to work for me, or I just don't have money available right now, and maybe they responded to one of their letters. So let me pitch this to Randy, give them the information, and see if it's something that they would take down, and then we can go ahead and split that deal. So I've been seeing some of that lately. I've also been seeing, flippers, like take those leads and wholesale them on their own. So it's happening more often, but and good for them, right? Because
Yeah.
they're realizing that they are using that lead in some way. If it doesn't work for them, they're acknowledging that and saying, okay, well, who can it work for, and how can I still make money off this lead? So
Right. Yeah. So I always kind of liken it to, kind of look at sports. Like, I'm not gonna be able to play basketball for the rest of my life, or you can't only play football for so long or whatever, but having a skill like tennis, I can play tennis for the rest of my life. Like, that's something I can do.
yeah,
So kind of like, I like sports. I want to be able to play sports. So what am I going to do? I can play tennis. I learned tennis so I could play it for the rest of my life. I know I'm not going to be able to like go out there and put on pads and play football for the rest of my life. That's not going to happen.
right,
Same
right,
thing if you look at the real estate investing world, or just the real estate world in general. Like, wholesale is that skill of, no matter what I'm doing within real estate, if I have that skill, I can kind of do it no matter what my strategy is and things.
hmm
So being able to utilize it, I think, is handy. So kind of digging into a little bit of these, I really look at the model of, if you are a buy and hold investor, if that's what your thing is, like where you are good at buying properties, fixing up the property in any way, putting a tenant in there, getting it leased and things like that. If that is your skill and you are good at that, like, take advantage of that, because there are a lot of people that are not good at that. That's actually a difficult thing to be able to get to that level where it's a turnaround property, or where it is a, profitable property where it's going to put cash in your pocket right away. So maybe it's a deal that, hey, I'm not going to do a deal unless I know I can get, $400 cash in my pocket after this deal. Where
right,
maybe I come across a deal that I can set it up, and maybe I'm only getting $300 cash. That doesn't fit my model, but can I get it to that point and then sell it to somebody else? Because maybe they're okay with $300 a month in their pocket versus what I'm doing, or things like that. So,
yeah,
and thinking about, like, okay, how do I take what I'm doing to be able to utilize it and put it into, make it work for my pocket, not for me to keep, but can I get it set up for somebody else? Because somebody else is in that position too. They want to get to where you are, but they can't do it themselves. So
yeah,
set yourself up of like, hey, this is a great opportunity. I can stabilize this property and hand it off to somebody, and then that's a good property for them. I can also put a little cash in my pocket as I'm doing that and stuff.
yeah. That's a great idea, man.
Yeah. So let's start doing that. So, no, so, it's just kind of the same thing too, as I really look at of, it even comes into whatever it is, we're talking about, we were looking at properties as assets and things like that. It also comes into play with notes. So if you are somebody that, we've realized that within our strategy and things like that, we do a lot of, we do some owner financing where, since we own our properties that we're turning, we're more of a wholesale company than wholesale company. Since we own, most of our properties, we have that ability to be able to sell that property on owner financing, where we are holding that note and mortgage. It's in our hand, but we've realized real quick too, it's very easy to sell that note and mortgage. It's very easy to sell that note because people want to be, as passive investors as possible, and note investing is a
hmm
way to do that. So it's not even just houses that you can do this with. It's also notes or whatever it may be. It could be land contracts. It could be any of that stuff. Notes going to be a little bit easier than land contract. I'll throw that in there as well, or a lease option that gets a little scary at some point. So you're trying to wholesale some of that stuff. But, a note is a great way to be able to do that as well. So how can I,
yeah,
same thing, if I can buy this property and I can basically, hey, be able to create this note, how can I sell that? How can I do that? So form of wholesaling, however you want to put it, whole noting. I don't even know if if we can coin that term and throw that out there or anything, but there's a lot of opportunity that comes around with that and stuff. So Randy, what other opportunities are out there for investors with what they're doing that can kind of basically utilize kind of a wholesale method or wholesale mindset really around what they're doing here in Indianapolis?
yeah. Well, real quick, I don't want to get off topic here, but um, so like we kind of do this, but in a reverse way, because we spend money on leads, and when it doesn't work for us, since we do have like a retail branch of our company, um, we can use those leads and refer them to, hey, like if you want this for your house, I agree, you should probably get that because it's in great condition, but you should be putting this on the market to get that number.
Yeah.
Good news
100%.
is we have
Yeah.
an agent on our team that can do that for you, and it's
Yep.
kind of like a warm transfer. So this doesn't just work for investors that want to utilize the wholesale method. Also works for wholesalers who, if you're licensed, you can go ahead and pitch both scenarios. You can offer the wholesale, or you can offer to list their property, or someone on your team has a license, or if you're, just refer it to your agent friend that's helping you, do the other stuff for you, like running the comms. Maybe that's part of your relationship. Like, hey, if anything that I can't get under contract, I'll go ahead and send to you, and you can go ahead and list it. So I just wanted to point that out there, and just, it just works on the reverse side of things too. If
Yeah.
you're wholesalers, so you absolutely still take advantage of making money off of retail priced leads in some sort of way.
Yeah. That's that's a really good point. That's exactly kind of what, right when you start talking, about like, yeah, 100%. We're doing like, we do the opposite of what we're kind of started talking about in this episode and things like that. What it comes down to is, what are you doing with the leads that you aren't working? We all know
Right.
that
There's got to be a way to make money
yeah.
somehow.
Yeah. I can follow up with them every so often, and I can be awesome at follow up and things like that. But there's some people that just are not going to sell their property to me. What do I do with that lead? Somebody has to do it. There's going to be, a Joe McCall out there that's doing a ton of lease options around the nation that, hey, maybe he can do that. Or maybe there's there is um, a hedge fund buyer that's buying properties just like this or whatever, that I can send these to as well. Or, whatever it is like, what are you doing with the leads that you are not capitalizing?
Yeah.
Even if you are not if you're not generating them on their own, if people are sending you properties, that's a lead. How can you utilize that? How can you open your mind to doing one extra deal in some way a month, or,
Yeah.
5 extra deals in a month, whatever it may be. Maybe it's an extra deal a year. What are you doing with the opportunities or the leads that are kind of come across your plate?
Yeah. And I think like in this market too, you'll have investors that take down package deals, right? Maybe they bought 3 to 5, or maybe they bought 8, whatever the number is. There's always probably going to be like a runt of the deal, right? There's
Yeah.
going to be a house where you're like, you know what, I got this, was just part of the package. I like these 3. This fourth one, I'm not really a fan of. And I think, and I don't see it too often. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I don't think a lot of investors are doing that. I think they're taking down the whole package and kind of working with what they have, instead of taking the 3 that they like and then taking that fourth one where they just, that's just part of the deal. Go
Yeah.
ahead and just take that deal and wholesale it, man. Like, just obviously you break down, how much you have into the property, so you know what your number would be on it. See if you could sell it for a little bit more, because typically in a package deal, investors are getting better pricing,
Yeah.
or at least that's kind of like the leverage they put out, right? So, if and maybe it's not one, maybe it's you like 2 out of the 4, but whatever it is, if you're buying a package deals and there's any properties where you're just like, yeah, it's not crazy about this. I bought the package for really these over here, and these are just, part of the deal. Go ahead, and I would go ahead and just wholesale those, see what
Yeah.
happens. You probably make some money, and
Yeah.
you go ahead and keep buying ones that you do want.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes into, just like that opportunity there of what you're looking at. Come across those investors like, oh, I do multifamily, and I only want things that are 40 units and above, or 50 units and above. Guarantee through your some kind of marketing or whatever you're doing, you're getting some leads that are at 20 units or 12
Yeah,
units, which are a hugely hot commodity and stuff like that. So being able to
huge. Yeah,
capitalize on
I
those.
hope I hope no
Um,
one's passing on those.
so, which is funny. I mean, that we talk about this, but literally, up to, you know, a year ago, a year and a half ago, within our CRM, we had a bucket that said not in our wheelhouse, of leads that came in that were not in our wheelhouse, not what we do every day, but were we capitalized on this? No, not at the time. And we realized like, oh, okay, yes, we should be sending each one of these leads to somebody else and, utilize them some way. Even if we're not necessarily profit on them, at least we're building a relationship, and how
Yeah,
important that is to it.
just
Like,
making that connection.
yep,
Yeah.
hey, this isn't what I do, but hey, maybe you can utilize this. And then, you know what, that person, again, 6 months later, would throw me a lead because, hey, I know you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That kind of thing, to kind of help out with all this stuff as well.
Yeah.
So, so Randy, I do want to go back. I want to get your thoughts on this. I start off the episode like this. So when you hear this term, or you hear this, that wholesaling is not really investing, what's your reaction to that? I'll put you on the spot here. Has anyone ever heard your answer to this one?
So you're asking me if you're telling me wholesaling is not investing or is not a business.
Is not investing.
Okay. I'm going to say I agree and disagree, Brian.
Okay.
Here's why. Um, you can, so if you're wholesaling, I would count that as real estate investing because so again, wholesaling is when you're taking out a property, and either you're just going to put it on the MLS, but the point is you're buying it and then you're selling it as the seller. So I'm saying yes, that's real estate investing because you are invested in that property personally. You've got money into it, and then you're selling it. You're a flipper, right? That's basically you're
Yeah.
flipping houses, and flipping houses falls in the category of real estate investing, for the most part. If you're wholesaling where you're just assigning contracts, I don't call that real estate investing. So I'd agree with you on that point if you told me that. But then I would say, well, wholesaling is a way to run a legitimate business and can get you in the door to start real estate investing. 100%. I'll always back that up. No one can talk me off of that. So, but that's what I would say. So you could still be a real estate investor in wholesale because you're basically just flipping houses.
Yeah. How about this one? While I got you on here, let's go ahead and keep this rolling. Can you run a wholesale business without using any money? So you said that wholesaling is a business, and I
Yeah,
agree with you on that. Can you run a wholesale business without using any money?
zero money.
Zero money, minimal money.
Yes.
Okay.
And would you like my explanation?
Sure. Let's hear that validation there.
Because so you said minimal money. So if you said zero money, I would say no. Minimal
Yeah.
money because you could, if it depending on your situation, you could wholesale, 2 or 3 houses a month, and with 2 or 3 houses a month in Indianapolis, you could make $10,000 to $20,000 a month. $10,000 to $20,000 a month, in my opinion, is a business. That's a full time job, and you're getting paid better, more than most people out there. And minimal money in is just whatever money you put down as earnest money, and that could be $500, it could be $200. So I think in the grand scheme of things, if you're making that kind of return, you're only putting down $500 a deal, you're doing that a couple times a month consistently, that's a business and that's how you're making your money, and you're basically not using much money. So
Yeah.
um, there's not too much marketing cost when you're just a single solo wholesaler, because you could just post stuff on Facebook and people are going to respond to it and eventually buy it. So it's not like the hard old days where you had to spend time actually putting deals out there, making some phone calls and things like that. It's just put on Facebook now and see what sticks. So
Yeah.
but um, I will say, like, if you do run it like a business, then you're not just obviously you're not pocketing all that money. You're finding ways to take that money and reinvest it, and put it into marketing, which then now you're starting to spend more money a month. So you kind of got me on that question.
I think it
I
really
think
what
the
it
answer
comes
is
down
like
to.
yes,
Yeah.
starting out, but if you want to
Yeah.
actually grow the business, then no, because you're gonna have to keep investing into that business.
Yeah. I think you could I think wholesaling can be a business for a limited amount of time, but if you want to make it your living, if you want to make it your day to day, you do want to build a business, kind of a real business out of it. Like for longevity, you're going to have to put some money into it at some point and stuff. So you're going to have, starting off, you can definitely have a lot of sweat equity in the game and stuff like that. But eventually you're going to have to buy a list in some way. You're going
Yep,
to have to, do some type of marketing and things like that. So, but if you're okay, just, doing, a deal here or there and making some pretty good returns on it, something that you can definitely start off and build your business off of that, I think. So
for sure.
definitely.
Give me another question.
Give you another question. So
Or
what is,
what other questions did this person ask you, or try
yeah,
to?
this was, yeah, I'm actually being pretty calm reliving this. No, it was a good conversation and stuff like that. So I'm always up for a healthy debate. What is, why do you think that wholesalers have why is there such a negative connotation around wholesaling today? Not
A
even
couple
today. I think there's always just been, but I think it's just maybe a little bit different today.
a couple of reasons why I think so. I'll start just from the people who, like, the agents of the world, or people who have their real estate license. Um, when they hear about someone wholesaling a house, like, red flags go off. They're like, nope, Absolutely not. You cannot do that. You don't have your license. You have to have a license to sell a house. And so I think from like an agent perspective, they still don't they can't wrap their head around that you can't you don't have a if you don't have a license, you're able to wholesale a house.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to the wholesaler taking the appropriate steps and representing themselves the right way, which leads to my second point is that wholesalers don't represent themselves the right way, which
Yeah.
leads to another negative connotation. So a lot of wholesalers are, I mean, it happens every day, man. They are coming out and they're acting like agents because of the way they're wording their stuff. They're selling houses, they're pitching houses where you're not doing that. You're pitching your contract, right? Just if they just kept everything down, like just tunnel vision, right? Like sell the contract. Let everyone else, like let the buyers and the agents figure out, all the stuff with the house. Let them run the comps. Sell the contract. Like, hey, I'm selling this contract for this property for this. Here's the address. Go ahead and just, I don't want to pitch the house because now you are acting like an agent.
Yeah.
And that's why people are like, that's why the agents get mad. That's why people in the community, kind of get, I don't want to say mad, but they get kind of misinformed on what's really going on. So um, I would say those two reasons why.
Yeah, that's what that's my big thing with that. Is I think why it has such a negative connotation. I think it just comes down to the transparency and honesty that people are given of when you're saying, oh yeah, no, it's not. When you say, oh, my partner is going to be the one buying this house, or not even saying that. Like when you say, I'm going to be buying your house, like you're not being completely honest with that. And when that
Yeah,
thing falls apart, when you have somebody that is sitting there with a moving truck on closing day, ready to move out of their house, and then all of a sudden you don't come through in your contract, like, yeah, you should have a negative connotation about what you're doing. And there's a
absolutely.
reason and that's happening kind of sadly, that's happening on a regular basis in some situations, stuff like that. So it makes sense of why people do get upset with wholesalers and why it does have a negative connotation, because there's people that are out there that are operating like that. I remember I was in a group at one, this was like a year ago. I was in a group and, they were talking about, what your conversion rate is. And when I'm asked that question, what's your conversion rate? It's like 100%, maybe 99%, something like that. Where if we're, we rarely back out on a deal or anything like that, especially if it's directly to the seller. We're not going to do that. That's kind of who we are and how we operate and things. Um, but this person was like, oh, I get happy if I convert one out of every 10 contracts. I was
See,
like, well,
no,
what?
I
Like,
know
it's like,
that's
yeah, I'm just
horrible.
going to, throw out offers and use as many contracts as you can. Like,
That's the yep.
that's scary. And but and I'm not saying, hey, if that's how he wants to operate his business, like, okay, like do your thing, like
Yeah, that's what he
be
wants to
you.
do. So
But if that's your reputation, that's your business, stuff like that. But that's also the reason that, why, wholesalers do have can have a bad reputation, stuff like that. And that might be an extreme example. But there's people in every market and things like that. So,
well, I think that kind of goes back, like the reason why that's happening is because someone literally can, like I can just talk to someone on the street right now and tell them how to wholesale a house and they can do it, right?
yeah,
They can call a for sale by owner right now, get a property under contract and then put it out there. So this goes back to your question, about the whole money, like getting started. That's one of the issues though, is that anyone can just do it without being educated. And those people that are doing it are just saying, oh, all I have to do is tell someone I want to buy their house and then go ahead and just make $10,000 off of that.
yeah.
And because
Oh, you're
they're
selling your house
not,
for 150? Yeah, I'll put it under contract for 150 and then try to
yep.
sell it for 160. Like, yeah.
It's like, no, a 150 was already too high for the market. You know what I mean? So like, it doesn't work like that. But so it's, those reasons are why, there's always, fly by night wholesalers, they're in, they're out. So that's the only downfall. So, you know, if you ask me if I'm a fan of, a little bit of regulation in the wholesale industry, 100%. I think there should be. I'm sure there's some wholesalers that wouldn't agree with that, but
Yeah.
um, I mean, it's getting pretty crazy out there, and I think if you're going to be handling there's some major transactions for some people, you got to have a little bit of education and regulation. If it's a real estate license, if it's like I don't know, it's not even a thing, but like a partial license, whatever it is, like if it's something that says, hey, like you're able to do this because you've had the proper education on how it should go, then
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah. Or at least something to hold over, say, okay, you're not allowed to do this anymore or whatever. So some
Yeah,
stipulation on there or something. But
yeah.
Awesome stuff, man. Appreciate the insights. Appreciate the vulnerability with the questions here and things.
I love it.
So good stuff. Let us know how we can help you out in any way. If you're somebody out there that you're doing something, you have some leads coming at you, and you're like, hey, man, I'm only looking at like 10% of the stuff is really all I want. What do I do with this other stuff? Like, hit us up. Let us know if we have any questions or we can help you out in any way. More than happy to do that. You can reach out to us at brian@simplewholesaling.com or randy@simplewholesaling.com. And with that, man, let's get out of here, and we will see you guys next time on the Indy Investor Pod. Take care.